I was dreaming of bigger things and wanna leave my old life behind. Thunder.
You're listening to the Create What You Speak podcast. My intention is to change the lives of 1 million women, one podcast at a time. Now let's get started.
Thunder, feel the thunder.
My name is Sloan Fremont, and today I'm going to talk to you about lining up with it. Hi, welcome to another week of the Create What You Speak podcast. So you probably noticed that intro song is in Spanish, and it's called Donde Están los Ladrones. It's by Shakira, and that translates to Where Are the Thieves? So I'm taking this Spanish class that it starts next week, I think. And so I've been listening to Spanish music as a way to prepare for that. But also I really like it because I do Zumba, and they play a lot of music that I like. And I'm like, well, I don't know these songs, right? Because they're in Spanish. So I started listening to them as a way to prepare for the class, just to get going, but then also because I like it. So something different this week to start out the show. Okay, so I had this breakthrough this week that I wanted to share with you that it really changed my perspective, and it had everything to do with lining up with the decision that I made. And so that's what we're going to get into this week is really the topic is lining up with it. And by doing so, I think it totally changes your come from energy, and you're able to carry yourself in a new and better space energetically. And if you're not familiar with what come from energy is, I did a whole show on this back on episode 18. So if you get a chance, go back and listen to that one. It was a good one. So, all right, before I get into the show, a couple of things I wanted to tell you. I read an amazing book. It was called The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. I call that like a thriller mystery type book. Really good, really good. Didn't see it coming. And as I was looking it up to talk about on the show today, I saw there's a movie coming out in 2020 about the movie version's coming out. So, yeah, hopefully it will be as good as the book. And okay, the second thing I wanted to tell you is if you have not seen The Righteous Gemstones on HBO, oh my God, this show, I highly recommend it. I mean, it's like off the charts. Like, okay, so it's about this wealthy family that owns these mega churches. And I mean, I don't even know. It's like this different brand of humor that, it's really funny. Like, I don't want to give it away. I'm like hesitating because I don't want to tell you like too much. But anyway, if you're looking for something good and new to watch, check it out. It's called The Righteous Gemstones. All right, so let's get into it. This topic this week on lining up with it. So I first want to start out by telling you what I mean when I say lining up with it. And so for the purpose of today's show, what I'm really talking about is lining up with a decision that we make, right? So maybe you've had an experience where you made a decision about something, but you didn't particularly feel good, and primarily because you didn't agree with the decision you made to do that, and it led you to something unwanted, right? So you made a decision, but you didn't really agree with the decision, and because of that decision, you got a shitty result. So let me give you an example. So maybe your friends, like, let's use the friends, like going out as an example. So maybe your friends all wanted to go out one random Friday night, but you really wanted to stay home and like just order pizza and just watch a movie and be alone. But you felt kind of bad because you hadn't seen your friends in a while, and you didn't really like the place that they chose to go, but even though you didn't really want to go, you said yes, but you felt annoyed and resentful. And as you started to think about it, you didn't really know why you were going anyway, because your one friend never called you back, and then the other friend forgot something that she promised you, and you don't really particularly like one of the people that's going. And so your thoughts continue down this path, and you find more reasons to be annoyed. And then you end up annoyed and mad about things from like 2 years ago, and then you continue to justify them, right? And then so as you're getting ready, you're just irritated and pissed off, and the outfit you wanted to wear is in the laundry, and there's no way you can salvage it because you spilled something on it last time and it never got it cleaned. And so you wear something you don't particularly feel good in, but you need something to go out in. So here you are. And then maybe your hair, your makeup isn't exactly on point. And then it starts raining, and then your Uber's on surge. And by the time you actually get to the place you're meeting your friends, you're pissed off because you don't really want to be there in the first place. And then you discover your friends are running late, and the table they reserved actually didn't get reserved. And so the wait is like over 2 hours. And so the whole night is just turning into a disaster, right? Like, if you have not been through this, you can surely picture this kind of night. And so, do you know why this type of things happen? because you didn't line up with the decision you made, right? You made a decision to go out with your friends, and even though you didn't really want to, you were annoyed and mad, and then you continued to justify all those thoughts, and then you really got your momentum going in a negative direction until you got to the point where your expectations of the night to go to shit were inevitable. And those thoughts set into motion a series of events that met the expectation, right? There was no other option. So in other words, you didn't line up with the decision you made to go out. You didn't make the decision and say, yep, even though I don't really feel like it, I'm going out and I'm going to have a good time no matter what. Or on the other hand, you could have said, nope, I'm not going out tonight. I'm going to stay home and I'm good with that. So since you did something you didn't want to do and you weren't lined up with it, the end result met your expectations of a shitty night out. So I was thinking about this in my own life this week, and I didn't have that experience of the bad night out, not recently anyway, but I was thinking about it as it relates to dating. And why am I doing this anyway if I can't or if I won't line up with the expectation of being able to have a successful relationship, right? Like, if I don't believe I can have a relationship, or that I don't deserve it, or that it's just not going to happen for me, then why am I doing it? Why am I going through this? And this came this week after I told you guys about the guy I met in Florida a few months ago, and we're still talking, and I've seen him again since then, and I like him. I like this guy. I mean, he's a really great guy, and we have a lot of fun together, and I want to see where this goes. But I've noticed one thing that's been coming up for me is this, the only way I can describe it is like an undercurrent, like maybe a subconscious or like a default state probably would be a good description. It's like this fear and disbelief that it's not going to work out, or like I can't have this, or like I want to believe that I can have it, but it's just not, like it keeps coming back that it's not going to happen for me, like my thoughts do. And as a result, that doubt and that, that fear or that negative vibe I have going on with that, it's causing like me to think these terrible and shitty thoughts. And that's causing my own self-imposed suffering about the topic, right? That I can't have it. And I've talked about this before in various other ways, but I guess this week I just got to the point where it's like another level of being like sick to death with it, right? I mean, I talked about that a while ago, but really like right now, I was just this week, like to the point, like I am sick of the sadness and the suffering I'm creating with my own thoughts, and I'm done with it. I'm done. Like, and so, and as I'm thinking about this, none of this is real, right? Like, I've made all of this up. Like those suffering thoughts they're just stories I've made up in my mind, and I've continued to perpetuate, and I've let them go, and I got lazy with them over time, and I didn't do anything about it to stop them, or I believed them, or I just assumed that's the way it was, or whatever it was, right? But regardless, here they are, right? And this week I was like, no, we're done. I'm done with this. And that's where this came up for me with lining up with it. And I got to the point like, again, if I can't line up with it, if I can't believe the decision I made to go after something, that I can't have it, then why am I doing this? What's the point? Like, if I'm going to date or attempt to date or, do the things that people do to get into a relationship, like putting myself out there, being vulnerable, like I have to line up with that decision and believe I can have it. And I have to have the expectation that I can have the relationship I want, and that a relationship will work out for me. I mean, otherwise there's no point, and I might as well not date, right? I mean, why else would I be doing this? To prove to myself that I can't have it? I mean, what sense does that make, right? None. Zero. And so as I got to thinking about this more, I realized, when we have this expectation of something not working out, or any expectation of something we don't want, right? We can only see things from that frame of reference that it's not going to work out, right? So if I have an expectation of something not working out, I can't suddenly start to see scenarios that would make me believe it's working, right? Like if I believe something's not going to work, that's all I'm looking for is facts to support that. And the only like thoughts and ideas and reactions that are going to come from me are going to be from that viewpoint of it not working, right? From that supporting that belief that I can't have it. And we do that because that's all we know in that moment, right? Like that's all we know. And in other words, when we're not lining up with the thing we want, and we're doing the opposite by not believing it, then we act surprised when we don't get the results that we want, right? Like we act surprised that we don't believe something, but yet we don't get it, right? And there's no surprise there. It's obvious, right? So I think it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that, the thing we're thinking about is true, right? Like, especially when we're coming from this mindset of, oh, I can't have this. So we think that must be true. And so we can't see anything else other than that. But, what I realized this week is it's like, how could we know what is or isn't true when we're looking at it through that lens of the expectation of something not working out? And if we haven't truly lined up with what we want, how can we see the situation from the viewpoint that we can have it and then act accordingly? And I mean, obviously we can't. And that was the big thing that, like, the obvious slap in the face that I gave myself this week, right? Like, it's so obvious, yet I had missed it for quite a while. And so I always see lots of quotes, and I like to tell you guys some of those things because they support what I'm talking about. And this week, so here's a couple here or one I'm going to start with, and I've got more here in a minute. But so this was from Commanding Life on Instagram. And this quote I saw, it said, "Most people overthink and use those thoughts as the compass for their lives." So in this scenario, like, most people don't line up with the decisions they make, and they feel poorly as a result, and then they make decisions and use that as their guide for how to act next. But we have to know that can't be right, because we aren't starting with the right things. We're not starting with the right thoughts, which in turn aren't going to lead us to the right actions. And so the quote goes on to say, "Instead, try using how you want to feel as your navigation system and take daily action. It's the biggest catalyst for change." So I think when we don't line up with our decision, we use that guilt or that fear or that shame or whatever it is that comes from that. We use that as our compass, and then we act from that. But looking at the bigger picture, we know we can't possibly get the thing we want if we haven't lined up with it and then acted accordingly. So, as for my own self, I started to think about that this week. Like, what if I changed my expectation, right? The obvious. Like, what if I changed that? And what if I lined up with the expectation of having it? Like it's already done. And again, because if I don't, what's the point? Why am I doing this? What is the point of dating or applying for the job or looking for the new house if I don't think I can have it, or if I don't think I can deserve it? I mean, why go through the motions and cause the suffering just to prove to ourselves that we can't have it? That makes literally no sense. And as I was thinking about this, I was like banging my head against the wall, like, oh my God, why, like, this is so obvious, yet it wasn't to me. So I think that, when we start to change our expectation, obviously our world is going to change, right? More doors are going to open. We're going to look at situations differently, and we're going to be able to ask ourselves, like, is this really true? Like, am I really looking through this from a lens of belief? And if I'm not, what other possibilities exist, right? Because we tend to think we know it all, and we don't. Because all we're looking through is what our current lens is in that moment. And so moving forward, I think the only way to really get what we want is to line up with the expectation of having it. Or again, what is the point? All right, so how do you do that? How do you line up with it? Like, how do you line up with having it? And so, just like everything else I talk about on here, this is an inside job, and it's going to be different for everyone. But here, I want to share with you some of the things that I thought about that worked for me this week. And you might have your own, but hopefully what I'm going to share with you is going to help. So I think the first way to line up with it, whatever it is for you, like whatever it is that you want, like lining up with the fact that you can have the relationship, or you can have the car or the new job, or make more money, or, have the move to the new city, whatever it is. Like, you have to make the decision you're going to have it, whatever that is. Like, make the decision you can have it. And again, if you don't believe you can have it, what's the point? Then you might as well move on to a new decision, right? And so, yes, I think let's use the relationship as an example. Like, I think, yes, we've all been through shitty relationships in the past, but I mean, like, so what, right? The new person coming in has nothing to do with that. But what we often do is look for clues and point our fingers at someone, assuming they're going to behave as the previous person. But that's not fair, right? That's not fair to the new person. We can't bring the sins of the old into the new, right? And so part of lining up with it is being able to let go of previous negative experiences and put aside those past hurts and feelings like you got screwed over or taken advantage of or whatever it is, so you can let the new person show you who they really are. And, a big part of that is you have to want to let go of that, right? You have to be willing to start with a clean slate. And most importantly, you have to let go of those thoughts that make you feel like shit, right? Like your feeling good should be your priority. Otherwise you shouldn't be doing it. And this making the decision, it's with anything, right? With the job. If maybe you had shitty jobs in the past, but so what? Like you don't have to expect that going forward. Or maybe you've tried something, you tried a business or you tried a whatever and it, didn't work out. Okay. So what? So what? Let it go, right? But a big key of this is you have to want to be able to let go of that. You have to be willing to start with a clean slate. And if you are not willing to let go of it or start with a clean slate, then there is no point, because you're going to continue through this struggle, this suffering of not lining up with it, because you're not going to believe it. You're not going to believe you can have it. All right, next. So I think, another way to line up with it is plan on feeling good, right? Like plan on feeling good, because what you're feeling today dictates your future energetically, right? Like what I feel today has came from the past, right? It's been everything, decisions and thoughts that I felt coming up to this moment. And how I feel now, that sets my future. So if I'm daydreaming about how I want things to go, right? Like what it's going to feel like and how fun and exciting it's going to be, that's setting in motion the future. But if I'm entertaining, those negative and fearful thoughts and letting that run wild and get momentum, then that's dictating my future, right? So you have a choice, and it's obvious which one feels better. And I think it's pretty obvious which one's going to get you to where you want to go, right? When you feel good. And we talk about that all the time on here. So planning your well-being, like planning feeling good, like that's another way to line up with it. Like just like thinking about it from the positive side instead of the negative side. That plants those seeds, I guess you would say, that gives you your future events, the future that you're looking for. All right, another way to line up with it, give up control. Give up the control. Boy. All right, here's another quote I read this week that I really liked. Okay, this is from somebody called Iceman_HOF. Most of the people fear and are out of balance and not in their purpose. It's like driving a car with the brakes on. That's the fear, right? Let go of the fear so you can reach your destiny. So that's what giving up control feels like. Like to me, like letting go of the brakes and free falling and trusting I'll be caught. Because I think we go through life like we have the brakes on, like because we're scared to let in what we want, or again, we're not lining up with it, so we don't think we can have it, or we keep it on, keep it like, what's the word I'm looking for here? We keep it like suppressed because we're afraid. And that's what's holding you back though. Like keeping your foot on the brake is what's holding you back. So letting go, like giving up the control, I think that's a requirement in order to line up with what you want. And then I think the last part I'll say about lining up with it is we have to start to get in this mindset that where we expect something unexpected to happen, right? Like something out of the blue amazing will happen to us, right? Like this possibility of this instant breakthrough. Like we kind of like loosen up a little, right? Like again, let go of control, but we loosen up about how it's going to happen, and we just trust and believe that it's going to happen for us. And I can tell you, I have created so many amazing situations when it looked like there was nothing, absolutely nothing possible for me. But I did that just by changing my expectations to something wonderful is going to happen. And that's how I met the guy in Florida. I mean, I had zero expectations, but I set that momentum in motion even before I got there. Something amazing is going to happen. Something amazing is going to happen. And it did. And so I think lining up with it and letting go of the control and expecting something amazing is going to happen. Like if you just did that and nothing else, I guarantee you your world would shift. I guarantee it. And I know because I've done it. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Okay, so I want to tell you two other things before I get ready to close this out here. There was another piece of advice I read, I think that's been over the past couple of weeks, that really helped me. And it said, the thing you fear the most isn't happening. The thing you fear the most isn't happening. And that was a big relief for me to hear that. And I don't know if somebody else needs to hear that this week, but I felt compelled to tell you that. And the last piece was, allow situations to unfold before jumping to conclusions. Allow situations to unfold before jumping to conclusions. I think that's a wise piece of advice for all of us. So, all right, as you move forward this week, I think it's time for a decision. Like, are you going to line up with it, like whatever it is for you or not? And I don't know about you, but I was just at the point this week where I couldn't take it anymore. It was time for something new, and I was ready. And I hope you are too. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about this week, was lining up with it. And I'll do a quick recap, and then I'll close out today's show. So again, this week was all about lining up with the decisions you make. Like at the beginning of the show, I talked about the epiphany I had this week. And like, if I don't believe I can have the thing I want, and I continue to think these shitty thoughts that make me feel bad, why am I doing this? Why am I even going after it if I don't think I can have it? And I use the example of dating. I mean, if I don't think I can have the relationship I want, then why am I even bothering? Right? And that it really shook me back to reality, because I was like, wait a minute, no, that's not true. I don't believe these stories I've been telling myself. I really don't. I had just got some momentum with the stories over time and let them, run the show for me. And this week I decided, you know what? That's it. I'm done. No more. And I made this decision and this agreement with myself that, if I have made a decision that I want something, then I'm lining up my beliefs with that and only going to think thoughts that support that. And so I hope this week's show has inspired you to do the same. All right, so we'll close out here with songs. So with the intro song, Donde Están los Ladrones by Shakira, Where Are the Thieves? So I understand this song to be about a period in her life where she got some of her luggage stolen with songs she had written for one of her albums, and she had to go back and rewrite all those songs from memory, and obviously was very mad about that. But Where Are the Thieves is basically, the song is about, they're all around us. Even we ourselves as a thief of, something in the world, right? Time, whatever, right? So, I don't know. I like that song. As I said, it's in Spanish, as I'm learning. So, that's the intro song this week. All right, outro song. It's called Sing Along by Sturgill Simpson. I really like this song. I like Sturgill, but this song, so he's talking about, I can't go on living alone now that you're gone. You done me wrong, so here's your song. Now sing along. So obviously the song is about, well, not obviously by that, but the chorus of the verses of the song are about, someone leaving and him being upset about that. But you've done me wrong, so here's your song, now sing along. So I don't really know what that reference is. I wrote you a song and now we can all sing along. I don't know. I like the beat. I also like that I don't really know the meaning, because that leaves it wide open. So Sturgill Simpson, Sing Along. All right, that's it for this week. Our topic of lining up with it. I would love to hear what you think. If you have questions, I'd love to hear from you. You can email me, sloanfremont@gmail.com. My website, sloanfremont.com. Also on Instagram @sloanfremont. I'll post the show, and you can leave any questions in the comments. And if you like the podcast, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review it so more people can find me. Abracadabra, now go forth and create what you speak.
Words can stab as deep as